Hello guys, it's your girl Matt Cox with MA Couture Crafting. What are we working on now? More bowl cozies and matching mug rugs. You guys really liked my mug rug video with beginner tips, so this is the exact same thing for the most part, except it's not quilt as you go. Love these mug rugs. They're super easy. You can pretty much do whatever you want. Sew whatever you want, however you want, and then just cut it down and bam, mug rug. And I really like this this method with the stripes. It's just easy and fun and it's kind of stunning. If I do say so myself, it's very, very pretty. What did we learn? We learned that you can mark on batting with twistable crayons. I heard somebody say that and I'm like, what? And the issue with these is that, as you can see, they come like this with this super thick tip. Can you see that? It's like a super thick nub of a tip, and that's not cute. But turns out you can sharpen them. I sharpened this one in my sharpener. I just twisted it up and then sharpened it. Can you see it? It comes to a full tip now, like a normal pen. So I'm really excited to have found that out because I prefer to mark on batting with something that's not going to absorb through the batting. So that was just super great. Also, this is my favorite technique for making any kind of bowl cozy because it's completely customizable. It's easy. It works. I like the result. This came about because I was drinking mango tea out of this very teacup. And I had a paper towel and it's not cute and I'm tired of using up all my paper towels to hold my ice cream and my teacups. So it's not just a coaster where you would sit a coaster down and whatnot. This is something that you can pick up and hold with you while you're drinking it. I know that they make those tea cozy sleeves that go around this part, but I'm not holding my teacup like that. Like I hold my tea just like this. So, oh my goodness, I love this little guy. I love the colors. Oh, you can totally customize this thing like completely. And I'm a weirdo and I like to use all of my decorative stitches. So I talk about that some too. And then I thought I would just make a set. And so now we have a mug rug and a teacup cozy set. And I think it is just darling. I'm not giving that away. That's mine unless you ask really, really nicely. All right, guys, if you want to get into it, please do. Just keep watching. All right, bye-bye. All right, so I am going to begin by cutting my batting down to 5.5-inch squares. Then I'm going to cut my fabric down to the same and layer them on top of each other. And then we're going to draw a diagonal line from corner to corner. You're going to sew this line from corner to corner. After you sew them, you're going to fold it in half. You're going to take your ruler, make sure that the arrow is pointing towards your belly button, and you're going to do 1 inch down to the left and a 1/2 inch up. So at the bottom, you're going to do 1 inch in, I should say, and up a 1/2 inch. I'm going to do it again right here. So make sure the arrow is pointing towards you. The long side is 1 inch and the short side going up is just 1/2 inch. Then you're going to connect the lines. After you connect these lines, you're going to sew on the line. I should say connect the dots. You're going to connect the dots, not the lines. The 2 dots that we just drew, we're going to connect those. And now we've sewn on that line. This is creating what they call a dart. Let's do it again. 1 inch closest to you, and then you're going to go up a 1/2 inch. 1 inch and 1/2 inch, and then just sew the line after you've connected the dots. And you got to do this on both sides, so you should have 4 darts total. I'm using a water-soluble marker here. You can use whatever will mark on batting. I only know of markers and randomly twist up crayons. So after you sew the darts, go ahead and clip about 1/4 away from. You're just taking off the excess. You want to Yeah, like a quarter. And going ahead and trim any loose threads that you might have. Going ahead and give your project a little haircut. Right sides touching, you're going to line up the darts and the lines the best you can. The darts are the most important ones that you want to line up. And then you're going to sew all around it. It's important to remember to leave an opening. So this is me sewing around this guy. There is a lot of bulk where the darts meet, like a lot of bulk. So be careful. Your machine might not like that. You might have to give it a little encouragement. And make sure you go back and forward where the hole is going to be, because you're going to be putting a lot of stress and tension on it. So you want to go backwards and forward so that you can turn it over. And then I just clip the corners to reduce bulk when you turn. And then we're going to turn it inside or right sides out. I'm grabbing a purple thing. I realize that mine is blue, but it's a purple thing. And I'm poking out the corners, which aren't super difficult to poke out. And I'm rolling those seams so that I get them fully open, or as open as I can get them. Now we're going to press it. Pressing just, boy, it really gives it a little something. And the little area where we turned, I folded that inwards and I gave it a nice hard press so that it stays flat while I can sew, so that I can sew through it. Isn't this little guy so cute? I just love this. I love this little project. It's perfect for, I guess I should say it's perfect for beginning sewers. Even though it's kind of small, I think the bigger ones would be a little easier, but this is not difficult to do at all. I decided to use a zigzag stitch because that's fun. I love decorative stitches. I would have used some different decorative stitches, but there's a lot of bulk here, and I'm already not using my walking foot, and I don't want it to go back and forth, you know, for a super decorative stitch and can't get it in the center. And there you have it, my zigzag stitches all the way around the sides. Now I just need to give it a little trim and clip those threads. Look, you can flip it either way you want it to flip. Love those polka dots. Now let's make this, what is it, mug rug. Yes, we're going to make a mug rug now. Very, very simple to do. So for the mug rug, really all we're going to do is make some strips. And all the strips are going to be 1.5 inches. If I were doing this again, I would clean up my strips a whole lot more, because when they are not even, they tend to bow. When I pressed them, I didn't press them straight. You know, I'm just kind of throwing this together, but yeah, you'll see after I finish sewing them, it's like a rainbow. Like, come on, girl. But it still turns out super cute because there's so many different patterns and there's so much going on this mug rug. It's kind of like, it's not a big deal. Not to me anyway. This is just, it's so pretty, especially with these colors that I chose. I love it. I'm using a mixture of K Facet and Tula Pink and Grunge, of course, like all my jams right now. And then you just line them up and then sew them right sides together in whatever order you want. And I did 7 strips. So I sewed them straight. I just pressed them kind of wonky. I'm using my guard here and my 1/4 inch foot. See, if I had done them all the same size, I could have sewn up one side and sewn back down the other. Actually, I probably still could have done that, but that would have made it so that they're more straight. So you can even tell that they're bowed already. Just a hot bowed mess. Again, not an issue for this particular project. If I was using solids, I would have tried to get them way more straight. I'm using this pressing bar that also is a clapper. Another notion, imagine that. I like it. It really does help you open up seams much faster, but also I, curved my, whatever, you see what's happening here. Open up those seams. Because this is a mug rug and people will be putting their mugs and things on there, you really don't want a bunch of bulk. You want to get these as flat as you can. So you can see that the polka dot fabric looks like a rainbow. It's just art. And that is just due to the way that I sewed it. And they're pressed open pretty good, but I should have sewed down one way and sewed back up the other. Sewed down one way, sewed back up the other. So I'm trimming off the excess, and I'm trying to get a 6-inch piece here. No, that's wrong. I cut a 5.5-inch piece initially. I think I cleaned it off to a 5.5-inch piece because I wanted that to finish at 5, yes. And I'm cutting some strips of purple that are the same height as my strip set right here. So I'm cutting this at 5.5. No, actually I cut that at 6. I take that back. I did cut it at 6. And then I cut that little strip at 1 inch. Do your own thing. Trust me, it does not matter, because at the end you're just going to cut this down to whatever size you want it to be anyway. So I cut that little strip and I sewed it in. Now I'm going to cut another piece. Now this piece I cut at 2.5, and the next piece I cut at 3. So the first one I cut at 6. Look at how wonky it is. Do I care? Not even a little bit. Do not stress your life. And I cut that last one at 3. So I've got a 1-inch strip there. Now this is the 2.5-inch strip. And I'm just pressing all these seams open. Open, open. Just so that it lays really flat. Then we're going to sew another little strip on. 1-inch strip. And then lastly, the 3-inch strip. I flipped the middle strip upside down. This looks really cool in solids. I did it all in prints because I was throwing everything but the kitchen sink in here. But if you wanted to do this in solids first, make sure that you are sewing straighter than me because it's going to be more noticeable. So I grabbed a piece of batting. You can see that the batting is all wonky, but it is larger than the front panel. Now we're going to cut a piece of backing out of this fabric. This fabric, I just thought it was pretty. I don't even remember where I bought it, but I was getting ready to do something silly, and I thought, no, don't use that to cut. The rotary does not butt up nicely against that. That's not what that's for. So I measured this piece probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches larger than that entire panel. So you want your backing to be larger than your batting. Do not stress about the measurements or anything. This is kind of an intuitive, fun starter project just to get you sewing. You're going to lay that down with the right side facing the table because when you flip it over, you want to see the pretty side. And now I'm going to mark on the panel where I want to sew so that I'm quilting it so that the needle goes through all the layers and they're all attached to one another. And you don't have to worry about where you start and stop as long as you're sewing completely on that front panel. So actually I start on that backing fabric and sew onto the batting and then onto the front panel. I'm putting in a couple of pins so that it doesn't move in the back. Just a couple here and there. That's called basting it. You can use a spray baster too. And see, it's all nice and smooth in the back. So I grabbed some 12 weight cotton and I use that to sew because it's super thick. I like to see my line sometimes, which adds a lot. So again, there's a lot happening on this little mug rug. It is loud and colorful and all the things that I like, but you can certainly tone it down in your thread choices and these patterns. I'm just doing diagonal lines. I'm not even making sure that they're at a complete 45. I'm just making sure that they're parallel to one another. The first lines that I drew were about 1.5 inches apart. The second lines are 2 inches apart. It just play with your lines. You get different effects every time. You get different diamonds. You get different plaids. It just depends on how you're feeling. And I love straight line quilting. I think it's so pretty when it's done right. So I'm using 2 pins to mark because I use black and white fabric. I use chalk on the black fabric and a friction pin on the white fabric. And then I go on ahead and sew again. And once it's all sewn together, you're going to trim. I trimmed mine to 8 by 11. And so I'm just taking off a corner and wham, it's clean. What? Just like that. Can you still see the curves? Of course you can, but you're not really looking for them because there's so much else going on here. So we're going to clean off all the edges. Again, I cut mine down to 8 by 11. Anything any bigger than this, and it might as well be a placemat as opposed to a mug rug. I like mine about 6 by 10, 8 by 11. I like them in a rectangle shape, not a square. I wouldn't mind doing a hexagon. Now we've got to cut some strips for the binding. So I cut, this is not a full length of fabric. If it were, I could get away with 1, maybe 2 strips. This is just a scrap piece. So I had to cut enough pieces to make it all the way around the square with ease, the rectangle with ease. And now I put the right sides together in that little cross, and then I sew them at a diagonal angle. I'm not using any special tools here except for that tape that's on my machine. I just ride that red line. Ride that red line, and then when you fold it back, bam, they're attached, they're joined. So that's how I'm going to join my strips this time, on that diagonal angle. It reduces bulk, and you don't want a ton of bulk in this project. So then I trim off that excess fabric and press those seams open. And now I'm going to fold that strip in half and trim off the edge. And then I'm going to fold that down at a 45-degree angle and press it again and fold it down. Just folding it in half. Now I'm going to lay this down on the back of my project. I know I'm showing you the front here, but it's going to be on the back. See, it's on the back of the project. And then I am opening up that flap and sewing down a little bit just to attach the strip. With the needle up, I'm going to just pull it off to the side and drop that foot back down and keep sewing. Gives me a little bit more room to tuck it in when I get around to that side. So I sew down to about 1/4 of an inch. Then I stop. I don't measure, but you can. And then I turn it. I look to see if it's 1/4 of an inch. Now I turn it diagonally and sew right off that corner. I'm like, that's a little bit more than 1/4 inch. There we go. Now just sew off the corner. Boop. And now you'll see that I have sewn straight at 1/4 of an inch and then diagonal right off that corner. It's a little hard to see because I have matching threads. Then you take your fabric and go up at a diagonal and then straight back down. Up at the 45 and then right back down. I grab some batting that's folded over one of my scrap pieces and I put it behind that so that my foot doesn't have to hop up on my fabric. I get to that corner, shift it, rotate it, sew off diagonally. Go up at the 45 and then straight back down. Love doing this because it really does make a nice mitered corner. So then I just put it back in. And when we get to the end here, I cut that strip at a diagonal angle and then just tucked it in. I used that purple thing to make sure it was flat and then just sewed right over that guy. Bam. Now we have it joined together. And we're going to just press this. I'm using permanent glue where that thing is joined. It just keeps it together a little better. Now I'm going to press that open. I'm pressing it just to give it some little training so that it knows that we're getting ready to flip it to the front. Now I'm going to train all of my sides to know where I want them to go. I'm going to use some basting glue here, which is really Elmer School glue in a super thin tipped container. Little Elmer's glue. And you just press it down where you want it to go. And when you hit it with that iron, it freezes it. Bam. This does not gum up your needle at all because you basically have dried it. So I'm training it where I want it to go. I hit it with the iron so that it's warm. I'm just folding that corner in and up. Use the glue and then press it down. Because it's warm, it's already starting to stick. And I work my way around all these corners. I make sure that the corners come to they meet. So it looks like a nice miter. And just hit it with the iron again. And now that they're all done, we're going to go to the sewing machine. Look at the bottom right of this mug rug and you can see what the corners look like. You just fold one down and fold one on top of it till it gets to that 45. And that's what you want from your corners. I switched my feet to whatever this foot is. No idea what this foot is called. And I love it because it really does drop that needle down in the same position for the most part. And I sew over until I get to that strip that's parallel to me. And then I twist it and look where that foot drops, right where you want it. And that's how I've been getting a clean edge lately. That's how I get a clean top stitch. It's been working for me. And I don't feel so insecure about doing top stitches right now. Although I still don't love machine binding, but I've been using it because it's just faster. And there you go. You can see it's very clean looking. What? Bam. That's what you're going for. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching this. This is a super cute project, really fun, a great gift to give away. I'm obsessed with these and the world has gone bold, cozy, crazy. So hopefully you loved it. All right, talk with you later. Bye-bye.